Uh-oh. Too many concurrent sessions. Try closing the Oopsie. Okay, so I can stream but can't record it. That's okay. I'll save it through YouTube Studio. That's what we'll do. All right, gang. Welcome in another episode of the GareTheBear Podcast. Today is it's day 5 of the daily podcast streak, and today I am joined by none other than the vlogger, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Evan Lindy. What's up, man? Welcome on.
How you doing, man?
Welcome
Thanks
on.
for inviting me. Happy
Yes,
to be here.
Of course. You're my, I think, third ever guest on the podcast. I had my mom
really?
and I had my girlfriend back when I first started it. But other than that, I haven't had any guests, so you're the third guest. The first guest on the YouTube podcast, so congratulations on being here.
Thank you.
And being a part
You've
of
been
this.
killing it, man. I admire your consistency.
I appreciate that. And I admire your standard of quality. Everything is just, it's chef's kiss over there on Evan Lindy's channel. I've got him linked in the description of this stream/podcast, so if you want to check him out, he's down there below. I tagged him and I put the link, so you're all over the place down there. You're all over the place down
Appreciate
there.
it.
Yes, sir. So the goal of this podcast is to sort of enlighten our viewership, enlighten the people on our creative process and your creative process and where we sort of come from, because we're both creative people, but one of the big things is we want to make sure that they understand and receive the perspective that where we come from as creatives and why we do certain things that we do. So first, for my audience, for them to get a little context, first give them a little bit of a bio about yourself, tell them sort of what your thing is.
Sure. So my name is Evan Lindy. I live just outside of Toronto, and I guess you could call me a vlogger right now. Yeah. I've been filming like my whole life, man, ever since I remember. Like I have like VHS tapes of me shooting when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. I've always been filming, and then I guess my real creative journey kind of started maybe around 2012. I started producing music, and it kind of broke me into the creative space, and where I started opening up more and just really diving into creativity and not really caring about judgment and stuff like that. And that kind of launched that for me. And also I've always been a fan of YouTube and following like travel cinematic type videos. So I think I launched this channel around 2016, and I started off just making like cinematic B-roll type videos, and I only really started talking to camera I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and been taking it serious since. But yeah, I just love creating. It's one of my passions, and slowly hoping to turn it into a full-time career, and just what I love doing.
Oh, it's awesome, man. I like the goal is always, I think, to obviously make it your career, but it's hard to talk about it, I think. At least there's at some point there was a stigma that you don't want to talk about making whatever you love to do making it your living, because it just feels taboo.
Like, at the end of the day, the type of videos I originally wanted to start making was like travel style videos, and I always said like I just wanted to be able to repay that trip or adventure through my videos, you know? I'm not trying to make millions. I don't want to be driving in fancy cars, none of that stuff, but if I can, like, it has to make sense, you know what I mean? If I want to create videos, I can only make it come out of pocket for so long, where I just at least want to be able to break even from most of my content. And a lot of the content I do make, it does cost money, so that's the goal, is just to be able to repay a lot of the funds, right?
Right, I get you. And you want it to be sustainable. You want to be able to fund your adventures, like I've heard you say in your videos. You want to just, at the very minimum, fund what you do. That way you can do it and not go completely broke.
And at the end of the day, like I said, I've been doing it my whole life without really making money, and I'm going to continue to do it because it's just one of my passions and something I love doing, right? So
right, that's
never going to change.
Totally agree there, because that's the funny thing is people think a lot of times that you'll do it for money, but if there is no money, they're like, oh, how can you do that for so long without making any money?
Exactly.
It's so simple. It's because you love it, and they don't. Sometimes people just don't believe you. They're like, are you sure? Like. Yeah. Are you going to love it the same whenever you are making money? It's like, yeah, dude, I don't have to make money because it's just what I love to do. It's that simple.
Yeah, well, the proof is in the pudding, right? Like, you can go back and watch my old VHS tapes. You can watch these videos I made in 2009. Like, I've been doing it, and that's not going to change, right? Just because it's something I'm passionate about. So.
Absolutely. And when it comes to being creative, sometimes, and like talking about money and things of that nature, some things that it's important, I think, to make clear is, as a creative person, what do you value the most in your content, in your creativity, and whatever? What are the things that, like end all be all, you are this, and you value these things, and if you aren't these things, you aren't you, or your creativity isn't your creativity? Like, what are the things that you value in your creativity?
The thing I value the most when it comes to making videos is providing a feeling. I think that's one of the most powerful things, and that's what really got me hooked into like cinematography and video making in the future, like in the past, was just the feeling I would get from watching some of these videos. So it's just like a sense of like nostalgic and like it's like euphoric. It was like just a certain feeling, and that was something that I've always been drawn to, and I try to recreate that in my videos, and that's why I'm so like thorough and passionate when it comes to music and sound design and all that kind of stuff, because it just strikes these certain notes in people, like lining up your shots and doing all these things that just makes a huge difference just taking your time doing that.
For real. I really like that, the feeling, because that's something that I know whenever I was in my sort of earlier stages, that was a thing I had a hard time doing. But it's also a hard thing to figure out, and it's difficult to learn sort of what particular things strike that feeling in people, because it could be something you say, and it could be the way the music is or the timing and the pacing of the video, but you never really, it's hard to just say this is good, this makes people feel a certain way, because it's an art.
Subjective, right?
It's subjective,
Yeah.
exactly. It's an art, so it's very fluid, and there is no mathematical way, and I talked about this in one of my recent videos, where there is no right or wrong. It's just, it all varies. It all varies, and it's subjective to different people. That's
exactly. And just, you can get that feeling. Like I was just watching a video from one of the creators I enjoy watching the other day, and like instantly just the sound design and the shots, I was like, oh, you just felt something off the hop, and that's what I try to recreate. And obviously, like I said, it's subjective, and not everyone's going to find what I enjoy, and they might not enjoy it. But yeah, I don't know. There's certain things that you could kind of trigger just with like sound design. Like that's what I think is one of the biggest thing is music, and creating some kind of nostalgic feeling, because I think that's one of the most powerful feelings you could create.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. That's sound design is something, I know you and I have talked about this in the past. It's something that I'm sort of getting better at every time and learning a little bit more about. And there was a video Van Neistat made. I don't remember exactly the video. It was like a Patreon or something. But he was referring to he was doing an interview with the guy that originally scored all of his music for his videos, and they were talking about the music and why he has him make unique music for every single video. So what the idea was that Van said he made his video first. He did the entire process, did not make a single, he didn't put audio in it. He didn't put music in it in the background while he was creating the video. But what he did was he made the video first, produced it 100%, and then sent it off to his music guy. And the music person made an exact, he scored the music for the video after. So it was perfect. It was exactly the feel and exactly the tone that Van wanted his video to have. And also he let the music guy, he let him have creative liberty, because that's what he does, his creativity. So he, they kind of molded together, and that's why one of the things that I love about Van's videos is that the sound design is so good, because the music is just so effective. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people on YouTube, and I'm victim to this too. Back in the day, you just put music because you think it has to be there.
Yeah, and then also even when it comes to vlogging and talking to camera, like a lot of people don't really know about audio levels and clipping and stuff like that, right? And that drives me crazy. And like I said earlier, I came from a music production background, which was a huge helping hand, and it kind of like integrated my brain into working how things should sound, what levels should be at, and all that kind of stuff, which definitely played a huge benefit into like my video creating.
For sure.
Style, for sure.
For sure. And that's something I think people take for granted, and I know I did, was audio experience is half of the viewing experience on YouTube.
Oh, definitely.
You watch something and you hear it. Like if you were only in it for the visual, you're losing half your viewer. So if you think about it in YouTube terms, you're going to lose retention if your audio is not good, because if somebody can't stand to listen to it, it doesn't matter how cinematically beautiful it is, but if it doesn't have good audio, then that's terrible. And honestly, it's probably more important than a good visual is the
most
audio.
Definitely, because you can have a certain visual, I can have a cinematic sequence, and I could put some nice calming nostalgic music behind it, or then I could throw some heavy metal EDM kind of song, and people be like, what the heck is this, right? So it plays a huge role.
Right. And it complements. It's just like a title and thumbnail. They go together.
Definitely.
Your audio and your video, they complement each other perfectly. They go together, and it works.
And from an editing perspective, it makes things pretty easy to edit. I'm big into beat matching, when a certain key hits or a note hit or a drum hits, I'll switch up the scenes, and it makes it easy to edit sequences in that way.
Oh yeah, and it also makes it really satisfying to watch too as a viewer. Definitely. It makes it, because I was telling you about this the other day, where whenever I was making the road trip vlogs, that was a big stepping stone for me as an editor, because I learned how to do that. And it's something we take for granted now. It's simple, yet it is so immeasurably effective. You line up your beats and your cuts, and it makes it so much better.
And it's one of those things that you might not realize, but it's the things your brain subliminally picks up on.
Yeah.
And like, when the scenes change smoothly to the beat, it's a smooth viewing experience. And like just these things that like our brain subliminally picks up on. Like I think one of the most important things when it comes to cinematics and creating is like rule of thirds and lining up your shots.
Oh yeah.
For those who don't know what that is, like I have it on everything. Even if you look at my phone grid, I have the rule of thirds grid. Like I have that on everything, right? Because that is just so important when it comes to lining up your shots. You just take that extra second to line up a shot versus an unlined up shot. It just makes such a big difference. And I think the rule of thirds is one of the most important things when it comes to creating cinematically pleasing videos, and just really taking that time to line up your shots.
Absolutely.
And subliminally, like I said, that's what your brain picks up on, because like you have those lines of focus, and like it's just what your brain does, right? And it's just going to be able to pick up that's more appealing of a shot.
Oh yeah, that's all about image composition. And see,
I think composition is the most important thing.
Oh yeah, and I've got. So you said you have like the music background. I've got the artistic, like the drawing, the visual art background, right? So basically, if you put us together to make one video, we'll make a perfect video, because it's like
we definitely got a collab one day, man.
Hey,
come out to Toronto and make a nice vlog.
That'd be dope. But the thing that I've always had that sort of natural intuition for is lining up shots, getting that. Like the rule of thirds is a concept that I haven't been familiar with for the longest time. Like it's one of those things. A lot of this happens where it's pure intuition. So the rule of thirds, like I said, as a concept, I never knew that was a thing until a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But just that I knew in my brain, you line it up on your left third or your right third or upper, whatever, and it just feels better. It feels right and it looks better. For some reason, I didn't know, but it was just. That was a thing I understood, but I didn't know like that was a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it just felt better.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think it's one of the most important things when it comes to filmmaking.
Oh yeah, and it's something, again, like you said, it's subliminal. You don't really recognize it as a viewer unless you're into that kind of thing. It's not something that you really pay much attention to. Like, oh, that was a good video because they lined it up very nicely. It was very pretty. Yeah. They just said, ooh, pretty video, looks good.
Yeah, and that's why I think like my videos like really appeal more to the creative side of people, because I think creatives can really appreciate the work I put into lining up the shots, the sound design, when an average person who isn't really into the filmmaking world doesn't really appreciate those little things, right? So that's why I think a lot of my subscribers have came from their fellow creators or aspiring creators, and they can appreciate those things and the detail I put into the shots and sound design.
I totally agree, and I like that you're... Something that I think you've done really well is lean into that. Like, you see these people appreciate that, and it's not about the big number of subscribers or views or whatever. It's more so, how can you reach the people that you've got that watch your stuff and that can appreciate your stuff specifically? And it's not just chasing
quality over
subscribers.
quantity, like numbers don't mean anything. At the end of the day, one of like my mentors taught me about like 1,000 true fans, and I think that's one of the most important things in any career business. If you can build 1,000 true fans, you're set, right?
Absolutely.
If you can have 1,000 people who would give you $100 a year, that's $100,000, right? So if you can just get the core fan base, I think that's one of the most important things. And yeah, growth has been slow on my channel, maybe because I haven't stuck to a niche, but I think that the way I'm doing it is going to be a better long-term growth, because I'm building a true core, a true fan base, people who come back to every video, and actually like, I'm building in more of a community versus just like artificial numbers and viewers who only tune in occasionally. Yeah,
I like that. I think what you said, that where you're building more of a community, I think that is important, and it struck a note in my brain. You're building a community, not necessarily viewership. Like you're getting loyal people, but you're not getting thousands upon hundreds of thousands of views. And, the views at the end of the day, they're great. They pay the bills. However, it's the people behind that click, behind that view, that's what you're after. And that, I think, is something people don't really... I'm sure they care about to a degree, but it's not as mainstream of a concept and as an idea as it probably should be. Because at the end of the day, every click, every number, every subscriber, that's a human being behind it.
Yeah, I saw something, I think it was on Colin Samir. They were talking about like the power of micro-influencers and how that's really growing now. And it's like people with whatever 100,000 followers can get just as big brand deals as people with 1 million because they have an engaged community. I think the power is in just building that core community versus having a bunch, Oh, yeah. And I think, honestly, in a lot of ways, it can be more effective for smaller like micro-influencers, because
you are like you have that 1,000, right? Those people that are your ride or dies no matter what, that'll give you $100 a year or whatever it is. So they'll support no matter what it is. So you can be in a way more broad in your brand collaboration or whatever because they'll do it. And it's also, again, you don't want to sell out or anything. Like, that's very obviously a thing, but you may be more effective for a brand because you're not just a mass reach. You're going to reach people that genuinely, thoroughly care about it.
Yeah, you hear that, Sony? Send me a bag. You know how many people have got to bought that ZV-E10, man?
Dude.
Dozens, literally
that's
dozens.
What I'm talking about. The people that have bought this chair through my video is nuts. It's crazy. And I'm like, man, we could work together. I know I only have like 2,000, but like we could totally do some good things here. But, they don't worry about it. But I actually was talking about that video. It's funny. There was a moment, I made a video back in November of 2020. Sort of shifting gears here more towards the YouTube side just for a moment, where I made a video. I was doing daily uploads, which was a whole thing in itself. It was grueling, but I made a video where I unboxed a door-hanging mini basketball hoop, and that video took off. I mean, it got 1,000 views in the first month, and at that point in time on my channel, I had like 500 subscribers. So I was like, my mind was blown. It was crazy. But then I looked into it a little bit more, and I realized that was from search. And how I found your video, I think actually it was from the homepage, but a lot of your content is driven towards search and Sony ZV-E10 and things of that nature. So my question for you is, what was that moment like, or what was it where you realized, hey, this is how I can reach people here on YouTube is search?
Well, I think search is the most powerful thing as a small creator because at the end of the day, like you said, it's very, like the algorithm is kind of like a lottery. It's very rare that it's going to push it on the homepage, especially when you're a small creator. So I think the only way to actually grow is through search. And I personally realized that when I made a video about Mont Tremblant. It's a ski resort out in Quebec. Mm-hmm. And I posted it, and I, like I said, same kind of thing, got a bunch of views right off the hop, and it continues to get views. I think it's one of the most viewed video on my channel, and every single winter, it gets like 5,000-10,000 views. It goes through ebbs and flows, right? But yeah, I think search, that's when I really realized it's like, oh shit, if I just put something searchable, then people will find me. And then if I can have good content, then maybe they'll stick around. Yeah. So I think search is the most powerful thing, and the only way to really grow as a small creator, because yeah, it is kind of luck of the draw when it comes to the algorithm. It's very rare. Even if your video does get pushed, like the last video I made, it got pushed to like 10,000 people, but it only ended up getting like 3,000 views. And I think the homepage is like, it's good and bad because, I don't know, it's easier with search because that's what they're actually looking for. They're searching for a specific thing, so they're going to click on your video. Right. But when the algo just pushes you onto the homepage and they don't really know who you are or have any relevance, it's like, why would I click on that, right? Right. So I think search is the only way to grow in the beginning.
That makes sense, and I think you mentioned how people in search are actually looking for that stuff, and that I saw that somewhere they were talking about. I actually have it written down right here. Your main 3 goals when you're making a video is browse, search, and recommended. I think. Yeah, browse, suggested, and then search. But search, you're inherently going to have a higher click-through rate because that thing that you're making a video about, whether the thumbnail's good, bad, or indifferent, which I think this suits you well because I know you don't like the whole title thumbnail game. It's kind of a pain, and we just struggled with this before the stream. Like it's kind of a pain to deal with because you gotta know what you're doing. You gotta kind of mess with it just to make it to please the algorithm or whatever. But when it comes to search, they're already looking for. It's very topical. You're looking for that specific thing. So you don't care what the thumbnail looks like, and it may be a sign of credibility, but at the end of the day, you're going to click on it if it gives you value. So you're going to get more clicks and more click-through rate because it's what they're looking for, quite simply. Yeah. They're looking for that thing. That's why they call it search.
Yeah, and that's why I said, and if you can make good enough content, then hopefully they'll stick around.
Absolutely. Right? And I think, in a way, it might be harder so as a bigger creator, it's probably easier to do through recommended because if you have more data, YouTube will be able to say, hey, these specific type of people like your videos, but as a smaller creator like you and I, it's a little bit harder because YouTube doesn't know who likes our videos as specific as it would be if we had 1 million subscribers apiece. They don't know who our audience is as exact. So search is more helpful to us because like you said, they're looking for it. And so it's an easy way, I think, like you said, you want to make good content for search. That way, when they find you, it's more likely that they'll stick around. So you want to be able to kind of like win them over, kind of earn it, Whereas if we get stuck on the homepage, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Then eventually you just want to get to the point where you get that cult following, and no matter what you post or title or thumbnail it, they'll still click. And
that would be so
That's
nice.
what everyone's striving for, is just to get that core, back to the thing, core fan base, right? That will watch anything you post.
Absolutely. That is such a good goal, because, I mean, who doesn't want that? You want to be able to post something and say, hello, as the title, and then get 1 million views.
Yeah.
That'd be so good. That'd be so good. Now,
yeah, and over the last couple months, I guess, or half a year, I've slowly seen the views from non-subscribers to subscribers slowly start switching up. Even though it is still a lot more non-subscribers, because I am getting found through search, but that average views from subscribers are going up, and it shows that whatever that little fan base is growing. So that's a good sign.
That's nice. Yeah, that's something I'm still behind in the development on. It's it's still 80% not subscribed or whatever, something crazy like that, super skewed. But the baseline, something I talk about a lot, or at least I think about a lot, is the baseline of viewership is going up, right? And that's really what you want. Is you want that, no matter what you post, no matter when you post it, you want that minimum. That way, you want that number to continue to go up.
Of course,
because that's always a fun thing. Because usually before I started, actually it's funny, before I started going every week, I would first 24 hours would be 30 views, and then I would wind up at about 50, and that'd be it. But going every week, it's 50 in the first 24 hours, 80 in the first 48, 100 after the first 3 days, or something like that. So the baseline has increased, which is it's been really, really helpful. Yeah, it's a really good feeling. Now we're talking about things in search, and our first 1,000 views, right? Like I said, that one that I had, and it's happened before. It just recently happened where you hit 1,000 views in the first month or something. Now, I had a theory I wanted to share with you, something specific. This was one of the first things I thought about whenever we were gonna do the podcast. I was like, I want to ask him this. This is something I think would be really interesting to see. So I have a theory. I call it the K theory. So when my first video, the mini hoot video, hit 1,000 views, as soon as it hit 1,000, it was at 2,000 within the next couple of weeks. So my question is, do you think that when it hits 1,000, see on YouTube, when it hits 1,000 views, it's got that K next to it. So you think as a viewer, you think that has a K next to it, that's got a lot of views. Once that K hits, you don't really care how many views it has because it has a K.
Gives it a sense of validity. And I thought the same when it came to subscribers as well. Just that 1K makes a difference. I thought people would be more inclined to subscribe or view when they see 1K versus 500,
Right.
And I definitely think that holds some kind of ground, It might not do anything in the algorithm, but psychologically it might convince people that it's more valuable, or there's some sense behind it. 20,000 people watch this, so I will too. But if it's 20 people watch it, they're probably not going to click it because they just automatically think it's trash, right? So I definitely think that's something big. And funny story, actually, when it comes to getting first, it's funny. So everything I've done, the first thing I did was huge, and it goes viral, and then it goes downhill from there. So for example, when I was DJing and music production, my first show ever was at this legendary nightclub in Toronto in front of 1,000 people.
Wow.
And then every show after that, it was less and less and less and less. And same thing when it came to video creation. One of my first videos I made, I think it's the second or third video on my channel, was snowboarding on the streets.
Yeah.
And I just knew this would go viral, and it went super viral on Facebook, 1 million views or something in the first couple days. And it still gets posted to this day. It's a super viral video. But that was my first video, and then since then it just down. I've gotten hit with this huge spike off the bat, and then it just trickles.
Yeah.
So
it shoots your confidence straight up in the air, and then you kind of go down. But on that particular topic, I'm glad you said that, because that reminds me of the thing that I saw is Casey and Van. So Casey Neistat, obviously you know who he is, big YouTuber, vlogger guy. Van Neistat came out about 2020, 2021. One bit of wisdom YouTube-wise that Casey bestowed upon him was that right when it comes out, right when it's new, right when it's exciting, it's going to have a huge spike, right? You're going to start off really, really big. And then after a while, your real audience is going to filter through. You're going to start off super, super big, and it's going to level out. It's going to get smaller. You're not going to start out super, super viral. More often than not, you're not going to start viral and then continue to stay on that trend. It's more so going to start at a spike and then work its way down, and then you'll sort of level out. So, like, my first video, I had made 0 videos on my channel. I had made zero real-life videos, really. And it had, like, 300 views in the first day, right? Because it was new. And my first several videos were 100 views, 100 views, 100 views. It was like consistent triple-digit views. But then after a while, there's a couple of things to blame for this, but it sort of fell off, right? Sort of stopped getting. So you get your initial spike, just like you said, and then it kind of trickles down and gets a little bit smaller. But you also, like you said, you have your core fan base now. And they must have come from something earlier on.
Yeah, and those, like, whatever, even when I got that viral video on Facebook, like, they linked my channel and stuff, and, like, it got, like, 1 million views, but I think I only got, like, 40 subscribers or something.
Oh, that's lame.
You know, it didn't translate. Like, I thought I was going to do some good numbers, but then I realized, like, these Facebook views mean nothing. The page that I let post it just monetized my work, and I didn't make a cent, and it just... Yeah, it was whatever, but at the same time, too, is reassuring because, like, I knew I had a viral idea. I knew it would get, like, good numbers, and it did. But then at the same time, I haven't been able to recreate it since.
That's fair. That's fair. But, you know, in a way, you kind of almost don't want to recreate virality because, in its essence, you can't because you had the idea.
Monetized 1 million views would be nice for
that. Would be nice. That would be nice. But, you know, for your creative soul, it's you. If you chase, I think there's a lot to say about chasing virality. Like, people do this on TikTok and stuff all the time. One of the flaws of short form, people chase big views, people chase big numbers, but where does that leave you? Like, is that sustainable? Does that really... I know you have a lot to say about short form.
That's the route I just didn't really want to take. I didn't want to chase virality, even though, like I said, that's what I did on my first video. But I don't know. I've always just more wanted to create what I wanted to create and keep it true to my craft than whatever. Like, at the end of the day, man, I could make these beastified, crazy edited videos, but I just don't want to because, first of all, it's not what I'm passionate about. It's not what I really want to make. And yeah, it's going to take the longer route, but I feel like if I just stay true to myself and what I enjoy doing, eventually it's going to work out.
Right. And I think the funny thing about Beastification is, like, Mr. Beast himself is extremely passionate about getting views on YouTube and making the best videos possible. That's perfectly fine. But the problem is when people rip it off just so they can get views.
I got no problem with the whole Beastification. I think it's great. I think he's an amazing creator. I look up to him. I watch all his fucking podcasts. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. You're fine. Don't worry. You're good. Don't worry.
I forgot we can't cut stuff out here. We're live. So.
Hey, we're good. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I do really admire what he does, and I think he's super talented, but that's just not what I'm passionate about.
Right.
I don't want to make those style of videos, you know? And that's just the thing. I think it just staying true to their belief. The people who are copying Mr. Beast, like, they're probably not passionate about that. They're just chasing this bag, and people are going to be able to see through that. And I think just staying true and authentic is kind of the route to go. It might hinder growth, but at the end of the day, you're at least going to be more passionate, like, and enjoy what you're doing. Even though I'm not making a lot of money now, I'm still enjoying it. I'm happy. I'm creating what I love. So that's what all that matters to me, really.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely right. The number one is do what you love first, because money, views, whatever it is, that will come. And it's when you do what you love, it's easier to do it for a long time because you enjoy it. Like we said earlier, you enjoy it thoroughly. So it's, you have the patience and you have the time to wait for the money to come, because it will. Yeah. As long as you stay loving it and stay true and you just continue to improve your content, it'll come, without a doubt. It'll come. And it's, the thing about people that say, oh, you can fail on YouTube, you can, but that's also the people that fail on YouTube quit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or in anything in life, they quit. They give up.
People who fail are chasing a number.
Exactly.
But if you're doing what you enjoy, then what am I failing at? I'm making what I like, so how can I fail, right?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, like I said in the beginning, I do want to be able to make a career out of this. I do want to be able to monetize my passion, but I'm still having fun doing it. I'm still going to do it, money or not. So I think that's the way to win. And at the end of the day, like I said, it might hinder growth, but I think that's the route to go.
I think it's much better to do it the way you want to do it. Do what you love first, because you're going to be able to do it longer than anybody else because you have that sustainability aspect to it.
off topic, but it's so weird. Like, I don't know where to look because the webcam's above and I'm like looking at you on the screen. It's like weird, you know?
Yeah.
The webcam should be like in the middle of the screen here.
It should be right in the center. I agree. I've kind of picked. I'm just like, all right, I'm going to look at this computer because this monitor has OBS and YouTube on it, and this is my webcam. But I'm going to look here. That way I'm at least looking at the same spot all the time instead of jumping around all over the place, and it confuses you. So, or as a viewer, I would assume it kind of confuses you and kind of gets you rattled a little bit. So, and plus this is where you are and bigger. So I'm just like, whatever. We're gonna rock with this.
So was the first video you made, was it a vlog? Were you talking to camera right off the hop?
It was. It was sort of, I called it a vlog, but it was more so like a channel update / informational type of video. I was like, first of all, I was 17 when I made it, so it was terrible. It was so bad. But like then, it was a thing where now, obviously 4 years later, I can see that was kind of objectively bad. But then in the moment, I was unbelievably psyched about it because I was like, this is my first video. This is the start of something new, something really cool, and it was awesome. Like, I was super excited about it. So I thought it was the greatest thing ever at the time. But now it can be like, it was a little rough. It was a little rough.
Yeah, I wish I would have started talking to camera like right off the hop because, like I said at the beginning, I was just creating like cinematic highlight reels of just B-roll and stuff, and you know, I thought it was cool. But I wish I was talking to the camera and documenting more things back then because I did a lot more then. You know, I went on a lot more trips and traveling and all that stuff, and I wish I was vlogging then. I think vlogging's one of the lost crafts of YouTube. And
I totally agree.
Like I say in my videos, I'm trying to make it great again and trying to bring back vlogging because I think for me, it's like one of the content I enjoy watching the most. I love consuming vlogs and seeing other people's lives and how they document it and all that kind of creative style and how someone can turn like the mundane into something interesting. And
totally,
I don't know, I've always been drawn to vlogs more and the cinematic style videos, but I think it is coming back now. You kind of see the slower paced, more enjoyable content is coming back, especially for an older demographic, people like myself. I don't like being screamed at 24/7 and a million cuts in a second. It just
for real.
It
feels like a trick almost. It feels like they're trying to trick you instead of actually give you something valuable.
Younger generation, it's more for kids. It's like kid content, you know,
right? And I mean, once the kids grow up, I think it's the same thing. Where once they get a little bit older, they'll understand and need it to sort of slow down a little bit. Unless they're just going to be conditioned to boom, 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 high paced. But I feel like obviously there's good and bad about it, you know, with retention and things. But also, like, you never know what you could be harming their attention span, right? Because they may not be able to focus on something for an extended period of time because they're used to bang, 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 bang. Yeah. So you never know. Yeah. You never know what it kind of does, but.
Yeah, no, even myself, I could find myself sometimes, watching something and then start watching something else. Like, it just like,
right.
It's crazy these days.
Yeah, and honestly, when it comes to short form, you know, it's designed to just keep your attention, boom, 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 boom. What I've done is, like, I post short form. I post it on everything, right? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. I post it everywhere just for the reach, but I have to consciously say, okay, we're going to post this, and then immediately close the app and never get back on it.
Yeah.
Because if I sit there, it's a trap, right? You sit there, start watching one or two things, you're like, oh, okay. And then you just sit there, and then, boom, an hour's gone.
Definitely. Like, I do consume YouTube, but all in all, I'm a creator, not a consumer. Like, I do not spend any time. Like, I don't even have TikTok. I don't watch Reels. Like, I don't even, like, look on my phone, like, unless I'm watching a YouTube video because, I don't know, YouTube is still, like, in the same realm, and it's learning and inspiring me and whatever. YouTube's my TV. It's my guilty pleasure, but I don't consume social media at all. I barely check it. I have all notifications off and everything, but
yeah, that's fair.
I think that's hard. Yeah, it's hard to escape that realm, and it's easy to get caught up in. When a lot of people have like 6 to 8 hours of screen time on their phone, it's like, dude, you're wasting your life.
Right. Well, that's a third of your day too. It's the same as, like, people always say, oh man, sleeping 8 hours a day is a scam because that's a third of your life. But first of all, you need sleep to function.
Yeah.
You don't need, you know, physically, mentally, you do not require social media or content or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an addiction at the end of the day.
You know my whole motto, get outside, you know?
Hey.
Like, at the end of the day, I'll tell any person, spend an hour outside or an hour on their phone. I bet you the outside's going to treat you better.
Outside is going to be a much better, much more sustainable high.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be so much better. And that's something I was thinking about actually whenever we were on vacation recently. You know, we were outside all the time. And I remember feeling better.
Yeah.
Feeling, because, you know, obviously we had chill time, we had phone time, whatever, but the being outside, the being in nature, especially whenever we went on that hike with the waterfall and the everything, that was it felt really good in my soul because I was out there, I was in nature, and it felt natural, if that makes sense. Like I felt like it was a natural habitat because I grew up in the woods, I grew up in the outdoors, right?
Yeah.
You know, it may not seem that way through my content because that's sort of not how I brand it, but it's I've always been outside for a lot of time. As you know, as fair skinned and pale as I am, it's just I am. You know, I've always been outside. As I've gotten older and as I've gotten into doing other things, it's not so much. But at the end of the day, if I step outside for a while, hot, cold, indifferent, like something about being outside gives you a really good feeling. So I like that message of your channel. It's really good.
Yeah, no, same here. Like I grew up outdoors and I kind of lost touch with it when I got older and into my early 20s, late teens. I kind of lost touch with that. And that's one of the things that 2020 brought to me was rekindled my love for nature. When everything was locked down and stuff, it made me start looking outside and camping more and getting out and doing these things that I never really, not that I didn't have the interest, but I kind of forgot about it, you know?
Mm.
And as soon as I started doing it, it just instantly, I'm like, what have I been doing? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, this is where we belong, outdoors, breathing in air, touching grass, doing these things.
Touching grass, yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know, brings something to you, and it just, I don't know. For me, it's just a true blessing. I love the outdoors. And
Oh, yeah.
one of the things I take pride in that I always try and get out every day and do something outside.
Oh, yeah. And I think, you know, it's from a filmmaking perspective, being outdoors is the way to go.
Oh yeah, if
Because
you're a vlogger, like dude, like you can only make coffee so much, like you know, there's only
Right.
so many things like you can do inside. Like to me, it's kind of boring, right? Like
you're
whatever,
quite literally confounded by walls.
Yeah.
There's only
here
so
and there,
much.
it's
It's
fine,
limitation.
but it's like, dude, get outside, see things, like, and that's why I love like the drones and doing all these things because you get to see angles and things that a lot of people are just trapped inside. They don't get these perspectives and they don't like, you know, they could kind of live it through the screen, and that's what I hope that maybe motivates them to get outside. Like, oh shit, you know, it's pretty beautiful out there. Maybe I shouldn't be
Maybe
staring
I
at the
should look
screen all
outside.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I never thought about it that way, that being indoors is a physical manifestation of limits.
Yeah.
Because you are in a box. Quite literally, you are in a box. Whereas if you go outside and you see nature and you touch the grass. Touch grass, gamers. Touch grass.
Yeah.
You know, go outside. And it's you're free. We're all, at the end of the day, we're all animals, right? So we need outdoors. And that's why you see a lot of bad things, mental things, come from super high screen time or spending all your time indoors and not seeing the sun. Vitamin D is a big thing. I actually have this written down. I wanted to make a video, and you can steal this idea if you want because it fits your message. I made an idea where I want to talk about that. By and large, I don't know about the world population, but the United States collectively is vitamin D deficient.
Yeah, big time.
I'm sure the whole world is, but probably predominantly the United States, I would guess.
Yeah.
But vitamin D deficient, as a collective population. So the story would be, the message is perfect and parallel with your channel. Get outside. And so, again, free reign to steal that idea. You can have it, make a video, go viral, whatever you want to do. But that's just a thought. I was like, man, that's crazy. So, 24 hours outside challenge, something like that. Or spending 15 hours outside on the longest day of the year. Great idea.
Yeah.
I loved it. That was a really good video.
It was a good idea, but not many people clicked. But
hey, you know what?
I liked making it. That's all that matters.
That is the number. Exactly. That's the number one thing. You got the creative expression out. You got the idea made. You created it, and that's where the fulfillment comes. So speaking of making a video, I got another one for you. So whenever you start, you've got okay, it's time to post a video this week. What do I make? Take us through your thoughts and then your actions. The very beginning of the process. Where do you start?
My creative process, I guess I got two kind of styles of videos. I have a scripted style where I kind of more plan it out, and then I have an unscripted video where it's just say I'm going out to the cottage with my friends and whatever. Maybe I'll script a little intro, but I'll just let things free flow. And then sometimes I'll be a little more strategic with it, and I'll go on my notes on my phone, and I'll just really kind of think where I want to go. First off, for me, the number one thing I try and do, I spend a lot of time on Google Earth. And I just go through locations trying to find cool spots to film and good ideas through that. So that's the first step is where can I film? and then I try and find a good spot, and then I think, what can I make this video about? Because at the end of the day, yeah, I just want to take you along for my day, but there has to be something for you to click, especially in the stages we're in right now, right? You need to be able to search, be found. So I'll try and strategically plan like a topic to the video, I guess you could say. And I usually always try and like script like the first intro or talking, just so it gets the point and like you get that across. And then I kind of just let it free flow, and I try to keep it more organic. And yeah, like I said, I have two styles of videos, but they kind of fall in a hybrid of both, where it's a little bit scripted and then a little bit I just kind of let the day unfold naturally and see what I get up to. And that's kind of my thought process. And then also a lot of the power comes in the editing. You know, you could have like a style or a topic of a video, and then you shoot it, and then you could kind of rearrange it and refunction it in the edit. So I guess I don't really have an exact way I make videos, kind of varies every time, but I do use a lot of notes on my phone. Like I was going to post this today. I just downloaded Threads there.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
Same.
I was going to say, whoever has more iPhone notes than me, I'll buy him a coffee. Like I got 1,100 notes. Like I write in notes like nonstop. This is like my journal, right? I just always script things, planning things out in there. And that's kind of how my video ideas start, is in the iPhone Notes app, and then I kind of just let it unfold naturally.
That's your pocket notebook, yeah. See, I tried doing the notes thing. I tried doing it. I get too distracted. I see a shiny object, and I'm like, let's go over there. You know, I'll write something down, and I'm already on my phone, so I'm just like, let's go over here. Let's go over here and do this
put stuff paper to pen as well. I love doing that. But when it comes to like scripting videos, especially like whatever, when you're out and about, you have your phone with you, right? So I can kind of check the notes and see where I'm at in the video. And sometimes, yeah, I'll go like super deep into it, and I'll script like the scenes, and I'll like a lot of it is envisioning. Like I envision how I want it to go, and that's one of the issues I have, where I made that video about perfectionism, because I really envision how I want the video to be. And if it doesn't work out like that, then it could kind of throw me off. Like, you know, there's been a lot of times where I have this perfect video planned and I just don't get the shots I want. And then I'm just like, shit, I can't like finish it. You know, it's just a mental block. So that's one of the things that I really like trying to get better with, is just let it be more free flowing and natural instead of scripting things. And I don't script too much, but I do try and, do a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would say, because I've started to do something similar as I go weekly. Is when, you know, you say scripting, but you say it lightly. Like it's not like a hard script, boom, boom, boom. I would say it's more of an outline. Like you're going to say something about this. It's going to be more topic. Like whenever I'll do my videos once a week. Thursday is my writing day, right? I'll do my writing, ideating, whatever. And it's never sort of scripted. It's more like, okay, this is the conflict that I want to address in this. And this is sort of how I'm going to open it all up. And the words in the sentences and the things that you just say in the video just kind of come out. You have this idea in your head, but it just sort of flows.
And that's the way to do it too, because then when you script things, like that's when I first started making vlogs, I scripted a lot more. So then when I would go click record and I wouldn't say exactly what I wrote down, then I'd be like, oh shoot, I need to do it again. Yeah. And I need to do it again. And I keep doing it. And sometimes I do a dozen takes just to get exactly what I wrote. But now the way I have it, it's more free flowing, that it just flows on naturally. And I pretty much just do one take for everything these days, because, you know, it's not really, I want to say this exactly specific thing and I have to stay true to that. I have like you said, a rough idea. I kind of want to talk about this. So then I'll just off the top of my head talk about it, you know, and that's really improved my creating process, because I always do say it's always better to overshoot, especially when it comes to like B-roll and cinematics and stuff like that. It's always better to have more than not enough. But when it comes to talking, it's kind of opposite. You know, you don't need a dozen clips of you saying the same thing just because something sounded a little off or whatever. Like, it's just better just to let it flow naturally. And I think people appreciate that more and can connect more to the authenticity. And then you could tell when someone's scripting something. Oh, yeah. You know, it's very obvious. So I think just being more organic and letting things flow is probably the way to go, especially when you're making vlogs. Yeah, I think no matter how good they are at reading a script too, because some people can make it kind of feel more natural, but it's not. You can still tell, right? You can still tell they're saying this because this is what they wrote down. And something you said about, you know, recording less of you talking. Something I'm obsessed with Van Neistat. Everything he says is gold, right? One thing he says about when you're writing, the reason he writes on a classic typewriter is because there is no backspace. Yeah. There is no, you can erase, but it's a lot more of a process because you got to go wide out, then you got to move your paper, and it's a pain, right? Yeah.
So instead of correcting, he is just boom, 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 pounding away at the keys. And if he writes something, one of the examples specifically, he said, he was talking about he wanted to paint a word on the back of a chair, but he said, but this spirited man did not buy this chair, did not pay for it. So that is him correcting himself in the writing, but he used it. He used that correction because it's his own voice. And what he says is, in your writing, don't make it perfect, because that's not your voice. Your voice is what happens sort of on the first take of whatever. So instead of making 12 takes of you saying the same thing, do it on the first take, correct yourself. That is a more natural, because that's how you, as an individual, as a creative, say it. It's how
and that's the thing too. I find whenever I'm doing a talking head scene and I do multiple takes, the first one's usually the best.
The first one. And that's funny, because you think, okay, let's get all these takes. I've done the exact same thing, where I'll get a bunch of takes. I'll end up just using the first one, because I go back in the edit and I'm like, that actually does sound better. Because it sounds, the more takes you go, the more and more forced it sounds. And it's not as genuine. And yeah, it may not sound as perfect or polished, but it sounds more like you.
Yeah, and then also one of the things that people like when they're doing talking head, they'll say but, or like they'll use like a same word frequently, and that could throw them off. Like, oh, why did I say but again? But then with the power of editing, you could trim these things out, right? And you can chop it up, so it makes it a little smoother.
And that's something with talking head. There was a video, the editing podcast. It's got Hayden Hillier Smith. I don't know if you're familiar, but they talked to somebody who does talking head videos, and that whole podcast is about editing exclusively. It's editing, how people edit, theories and stuff like that. But they're talking about making talking head videos and how to make talking head videos interesting. And I think a lot of, their stuff is more scripted, the talking head videos that these people made. But when you're doing talking head, it's almost jarring in a way if you over edit, because it's not as natural of a flow of talking. So like if you do say, like I catch myself saying or like or but or or stuff like that. Those little filler, like those are the things that you say in your brain when you're buffering and when you're figuring it out and when you're sort of formulating your sentences. And again, back to Van Neistat, and not even just him, but other people, editors and things of that nature. Be comfortable. One of the big things I've learned in the last couple of years is be comfortable with silence. And be comfortable with pausing, because it's, first of all, easier to edit if it's just a pause, and also it's more natural. So like instead of me saying, I'm gonna say so, and then go on with saying what I was gonna say, because you get a more natural, and it's more kind of, it's got more of a rhythm to it as a flowing conversation, as opposed to cut, because you kept saying all the time.
Yeah, and it makes it hard. Like I speak kind of fast, so sometimes when I'm saying these ums or buts, it's like conjoined with one word, so it's hard to cut.
It's hard.
And it's like, leaving that extra space makes it easier to chop up and post.
Because if it's so bled together, that how it's got like the mountains and valleys and stuff. But when it's so bled together, you cut that out, but then you end up with and it's so nasty.
Very noticeable.
It's very noticeable. And with it being noticeable, that's interesting, because one of the things Casey Neistat said, I'm obsessed, dude. I have a problem with these two dudes. I just be watching them all the time. Like literally every word they say, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. That's good. But
I'm a big Casey fan as well.
That's part of inspiration, is you take little tidbits. But one thing he said is, if the viewer can tell you've cut, you've messed it up. Because one of the, especially if it's a talking head sequence, if they can tell that you hard cut, jump cut, it's not as flowy. Whereas a lot of the things he'll do, like he never does any visual animated transitions. Everything he does, 100% jump cuts. But you don't know a lot of times, because it's hidden so well. So like, have you ever seen that where you're holding out the camera and you swipe it, you do like a pan, and in mid pan you cut to to another scene that starts with a pan. So it all feels like one flow, but in reality there's a cut in there. But because it's moving, you're tricked. Your mind is tricked into thinking that just went straight on.
Yeah, that's how I edit as well. I probably did learn a lot from Casey in that sense, because I've been watching him since 2015, since he started vlogging.
Oh, yeah.
But one other thing I find is when you're doing those jump cuts is editing to sounds. So, for example, if I close the door of my car, it's going to cut when that door hits. or whatever. I pick up the water bottle and make a little crunch. That's when the scene's going to change, when it's audio sounds, right? And it makes things flow smoother. And like I said, these are the things your brain picks up on subliminally.
Right. It's almost like a cue. Like when your car door shuts. I do this a lot whenever, like if I'm shooting my, opening a door, and whenever it slams shut behind me, when it cuts to the next thing. And that's, like we said before, it's satisfying.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, subliminal. You expect, when you hear a sound, you expect something to happen. And then if something doesn't happen, in a way, in a very, very small way, you're almost let down. Because you're like, oh, something was supposed to happen, but it didn't. That kind of sucks. And then you're not focusing on the video, you're focusing on that thought of you were let down as a viewer.
Yeah, one powerful thing all editors should be familiar with is how to read like WAV files and audio files, and notice when you should be able to switch up scenes and stuff by reading, like be able to read the audio file. Like whenever I download, like I use Epidemic Sounds, so whenever I'm using their thing, instead of just downloading the full MP3, I'll download the stems. So I have the instruments, the melodies, the drums, the bass, all separate stems, right? So then if I'm cutting to the kick, for example, I'm going to cut it at the kick. And also I like using the stems too, because when you fade out music and stuff, sometimes I'll make it cut and then I'll cut out the drums and bass, and then I'll just let the instruments fade out and it sounds smoother, you know what I mean? So using stems and audio files is huge.
See, that I've thought about Epidemic Sound before, because it always seems like it's really good. Superior to YouTube Audio Library, that's what I use.
Oh, most definitely.
You can't download the separate stems. It's just all one song, instrument track. It's everything together, all jumbled up. And I've heard of people doing that where they'll cut it apart and use just the drums to do the beats, or they'll just use this, or they'll just use that. And it's a little bit more simple and a little bit less distracting. So I think you might have just sold me on Epidemic Sound. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, use my code. Get a 30 free day trial, and you're good to go, buddy.
Hey, get that hooked up, and then I'll be the first one to use it.
Oh, buddy, it's always hooked up. Always in the description of my
link
videos,
in the description.
Every single one.
Hey,
but yeah, like I think stems is very important, and I think it makes a huge difference. And I always use it, like when it comes in, like when you're whatever. And I guess that's what was my music production background, which made me good at doing that. Is you want to bring in like the instruments slowly, and then it builds up, and you can bring in the kick. Like when you have it all at once, it just, I don't know, it's not as smooth, and it's better for transitioning and keeping things flowing in a better pace, I find.
You can almost manipulate the music to
Exactly.
fit your video, as opposed to having to fit your video to the music.
Yeah,
which another thing, yeah, for sure. Like I was telling you, Van Neistat did an interview on his Patreon with this music guy, right? And one of the things they said was, it's hard to do music in the videos because a lot of songs, specifically, like like the ones on YouTube Audio Library, a lot of songs, they in themselves as a piece have their own narrative. So when you're using a song that has a narrative that's separate to your narrative in your video, they can clash, they conflict.
Yeah. Because
you've got this song. It's like nice, it's a good song. It fits in theory with your video, but something still doesn't feel quite right because it's the song itself is trying to send a different message than what you're trying to send through your video.
Yeah, like I said, I spend a lot of time on Google Earth, and I also spend a lot of time in Epidemic Sound. Like I just go through finding musics that are certain moods, and I put them into categories, and I save them for later. And yeah, I think music is a very powerful thing and could convey feelings for sure. Oh yeah,
it's probably one of the best ways, honestly.
I think a lot of people neglect that when it comes to filmmaking.
Yeah. Now, it's a thing people do neglect. I think also it's possible to overdo it. Very possible to overdo it. Because like I said, when you have YouTube audio libraries, like I said, it's what I use, but it's hard a lot of times to find music that is simple enough. Because a lot of times it's too composed, right? It's got too many elements. You've got your strings, you've got your drums, you've got your whatever else going on in the background. It's all over the place. So it's really distracting. And it's hard to use it when you're trying to focus in on one thing. So it's really, really distracting. It's tough. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, you got to find a healthy balance between like music and organic audio as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's another thing. Like I use the Rode Video Micro right there mainly. Yes, sir. But I want to start getting lav mics and be able to, just for like different styles of scenes, when I'm doing talking head, I could be farther away from the camera and film cool things like that. But I like having the Rode Video Micro because it records organic audio. And it picks it up really well, you know, the birds chirping, water in the background. I think that's super important as well. And like, there's a lot of times where in my video, I'll do a B-roll sequence and I'll have music playing, but I'll also have like birds and natural audio in the background.
Yeah.
And those aren't effects. Those are like things I'm actually recording, right? With intentions of using it for that. So I think that's another important thing is even like when it comes to like using your audio, like I fade my audio. So say I'm doing a scene outdoors and I'm changing to another scene. I'll have this scene from the audio from the previous scene cut into this one, and I'll transition it out for a smoother transition.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing I always pick up on, and I hate when people do like a clip and then they clip to the next thing and they don't transition to audio, and you could just notice a huge difference, and it's just like, oh, you know, just drag that a bit.
Yeah,
you know, it's so much smoother.
It's really yucky because I mean, again, like we mentioned before, it's not just the visual experience. You have that audio experience. So if you do a visual transition, you need audio to accompany that transition. That way it's not as jarring. Because if you have it where the audio hard cuts, and a lot of times whenever the audio hard cuts, it kind of gives you one of those weird little yucky sounds. Oh, it's horrible. They're horrible. So a lot of times if that happens and I just have to cut the audio for some reason, I'll keyframe it and I'll make it fade. That last frame or whatever, it'll fade out. So it'll just go completely silent after that. So you won't get that nasty area where it sounded like you made a cut, where it kind of needs to fade into another scene. But audio is very, very important. I totally agree with you. And no joke, I need to look it up. How much is it per month, Epidemic Sound? This isn't sponsored, but it could be.
I think it might be like $14, $15 US maybe a month, something along those lines.
How much? We gotta do that 7-day free trial. Make a different account.
Oh, it's 30 day free trial. Yeah.
So basically, I'm gonna download as much music as possible in the 30-day period and see what we got.
Yeah, and then I think your like the license for it will stay in all those songs, and then you obviously the way their license works, it's as long as you're paying, then any song you use is covered. But even if I canceled my membership right now, it wouldn't be like they would demonetize my other videos. Like I still own the rights to that music
because you paid for it when you used it. Okay.
Exactly. But once I stop paying, it doesn't change that. I still own the rights to those songs.
Okay. You just can't go back and get more.
More, exactly, yeah.
So whatever you have, you've got it, but it won't. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's nice. So it's not like they're trapping you in, and then you're like, oh, now all these videos are going to be demonetized if I stop paying. That's not the case.
That makes sense. And I think,
and they're good too because they have sound effects, you know, like whooshes and you could get birds chirping, lakes, rivers, whatever. You can get it all, right? They have that.
Yeah. You can get the
now,
Foley.
I don't know what's better. I've heard a lot of good things about Artlist as well. I don't know what's better, Artlist or Epidemic. I've never really used it, but I know it's obviously going to be more expensive. But I believe Artlist has like stock footage as well. But obviously that membership is going to cost more. But
yeah, I've seen people that do actually. They have YouTube channels purely with sound effects, music, B-roll, so they don't have to talk to camera or really be creative at all. As far as I know, from my perspective, the way it looks is it's not creative, and it's just stock footage.
Yeah.
So you could do whatever, but you could have like AI read a script, and then put stock footage over it, and then boom, you've got a B-roll vlog type of thing. And it's not really as good. I mean, obviously, because it's got the AI, so it's not that human touch, but people can do that. You can fully automate. And obviously it costs money, but you can fully automate making YouTube content.
Yeah.
So like that's a whole thing that it's an interesting thing, but honestly, as a creative, I don't fear it because you can't beat the human spirit. You cannot beat it.
Yeah, no, people will yearn for it. If everything goes all AI, they'll want that realness and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it just doesn't work. And yeah, I don't know. I'll never really use stock footage. Even when I film my vlogs, believe it or not, like every scene is pretty much chronological. Like I don't like film something in the evening and insert it into the beginning of the vlog. Like every clip is chronological. Yeah. And that's something I love doing and keeping it that way.
That makes sense. Fun. That's a good.
Because it's like an actual documentation, you know? It's not like fabricated. It's not like I'm including a scene from previous. It's like that's how my day actually went.
Right.
So
it goes beginning to end. That makes a lot of sense. That's what Casey Neistat does too, which I've heard him talk about that, where he'll literally just make the video start to finish. He'll record it, and then in the edit, once he gets to he edits chronologically. That's what it is. Once he gets to the end of the video, as he's editing it, he's done. It's finished. He doesn't edit like the whole thing, go back and redo the cuts and like fix things. He does it perfect as he goes, or to his standard of perfection as he goes. Once he's to the end, it's done. It's over with.
Yeah, that's not. I'm not at that point yet.
Yeah,
I still go in there and refine it. Quite a bit. I'll chop out
yeah.
minutes of vlogs because I don't know. A lot of times I second guess it. And I'm like, oh, what's the point of including this? But
yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, too, in the time it takes you to get to the end, your perspective changes a little bit, and maybe your goal with that video changes. So once you go back and relook at it with a fresh image of what you want it to be, it's easier to figure out. Okay, let's cut this part. This doesn't particularly contribute to what I'm trying to say, so we'll go through and cut some stuff
especially
out.
in the early phases where retention really makes a difference. It's better just to keep things as short as possible because if they're not even watching the full video as it is, imagine I left that extra 4 minutes of talking in there and make it even worse.
It'd be even worse. So you'd be at a 10%.
It's hard to find that balance, right?
Right. It's definitely hard.
It's hard to grow when you want to create the way I want to create, It really hinders growth.
Absolutely. It sucks because it sucks that that's the way it is because, you are more creatively fulfilled than most people that are about our size that are just going, the people that are trying to get views and trying to, obviously we want views too. Like that's not lost on us, but it's a different, your why is different, right?
Yeah,
your why isn't views because that's not sustainable. Your why is because you love making videos. And my why is because I love making videos. But some people's why is, let's get monetized, let's make this passive income, whatever the heck. And that's not sustainable. Because if you don't have that love for it, eventually that'll show through and you won't be able to stay, right? You won't be able to stick.
Yeah, I want to get to a point where, I don't know, ideally the game plan would be, say, I create, 4 or 5 viral potential videos a year that would be able to fund the weekly videos that I want to make. You know what I mean? So, as of right now, the way monetization is that it's at my point in my current RPM, it's around 10 million views will make me a livable income. Wow. So if I can get 10 million views a year, that's livable and that's bringing good enough money to make the other videos. And I would be happy if I can get, say, 2 videos that have 5 million views and then the rest of the videos get under 100,000, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Just use that as a tool to help fund these other videos that I want to make.
That makes sense.
And because at the end of the day, money is what funds these ventures. I can only go so much out of my pocket, and if I had more money, I would create better videos, and that's just the truth, Right. At the end of the day, it doesn't change my passion for it, but if I want to make bigger and better videos, which I do want to do, I want to travel a lot, I want to buy a van, convert it into a camper, drive around Canada, drive around America. I have all these great ideas that I really want to do and I think would make amazing content, but I need money to get there, right? So it's just trying to find that healthy balance. At the end of the day, I'm not going to sell my creative soul on all my videos, but there might be a few a year that I strategically plan that can pay the bills.
Right. And honestly, if you put more time beforehand, if you want to plan out 3 or 4 viral videos a year, you can spend extra time beforehand in making it and really refining that balance of your creative passion and something that's going to go viral and do a lot of views, right? Exactly. If you allow yourself more time for that, then it can be better off as opposed to if it were just one of your weekly videos. Yeah. Because you can spend, if you're planning it on the yearly as opposed to the weekly, they'd be like, all right, we could spend a month making this one video.
Even one thing Mr. Beast said, it's easier to get 10 million views on one video than 100,000 on 20.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So if you could just get that 1 or 2 a year that can pay the bills, and then you could create freely from that, I think that's a fun route to go for sure.
Absolutely. And then anything extra is a bonus, right? If you have one that just, out of nowhere does 1 million, it's like, cool, sounds good to me. Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, and it's crazy. People don't really understand monetization. They think once you get that monetization, it's the end all be all. You're set. Your fucking money's flying in, but that's just not the case. It's you're not really making money until you're pulling millions of views or whatever. 100,000 views is still a couple $100, but you need to pull a lot of views to actually make money from monetization on YouTube. Yeah. And I thought the same. I thought I would be rolling in the dough and things would be glorious, but even then, I watched a lot of videos where at the end of the day, RPM is. If you're lucky, if you're getting a $4 RPM. If you're a finance channel, you might be up into 10s or 20s. And for those who don't know, RPM is just how much they're paying you per 1,000 views. So average, you're looking at $2 to $4 if you're just not a finance channel, right? So to make $2,000 or $4,000, you need to get 1 million views.
It's wild.
And 100,000 is $200 to $400, which is still fine. You know, if you're getting 100,000 views per video, you can make do with that. But it takes a lot to make money, and that's why you have to look at alternative monetization routes. And that's why people take brand deals, because at the end of the day, a $10,000 brand deal on a video you're not gonna get $10,000 from that video.
No way.
You know what I mean?
No way.
It just monetization, the margins are very low unless you're bringing in millions or hundreds of thousands of views.
Right. And something Mr. Beast was talking about, I watched the interview he did with Colin and Samir most recently, and he said that anymore, with the views that they do on that channel, it's hard to do brand deals because they won't pay them what they're worth because they just don't have it in the budget, right? Yep. He does 100 million views, and he would have to demand like a minimum or like $1 million, $2 million from a brand deal, because you just it doesn't match up, it doesn't line up, it's not aligned with it's not. He's doing this, they're willing to pay him this, so it doesn't make sense. But for somebody about our size, we get, honestly, anymore, like you said, with micro influencers, we could have less than 10,000 subscribers, and we could do a couple $300-$400 brand deals. If you get the right.
I've been getting a lot of brands reaching out, but all of them right now, it's like they say exactly what they say. They're like, "Oh, it looks like you have a great engaged community. We'd like to work with you." But it's not for money right now at this point. It's more just they want to send me a free product and I review it on my page, and that's not what I'm going to do unless you're paying me. Then maybe, but I would never even like take a brand deal of something that I don't use or think is good. Like I'm not going to shill products. I'm never going to be that guy selling vapes to kids or freaking shilling these casino apps and stuff. I'm gonna try and keep it like a little more friendly and take strategic brand deals. But
right, and that's something that's, I think, is a very valuable idea, is don't just grasp at everything. Don't try and get all the brand deals, because you're not, in long term, you're not going to maximize what you're making. You're going to you're going to be, no shade, but you're going to be doing Raid Shadow Legends your whole career. That's not your niche. That's not what you do. You would be better off, getting something like an affiliate link from like Joby or something like that, right? With the tripod or something like that. Like what I've done, I've actually reached out to Sony and Joby. Obviously, no, haven't heard back. But it's always a no if you don't ask, first of all. And that's something more like if you actually were able to get something with Sony where you had an affiliate link set up and you reviewed the camera. Like, say they came out with the newest iteration of the ZV line, right? ZVE 1,000,000 or whatever. You'd review that camera because that's something you would do anyway.
Yeah.
But they'd give you the camera, they'd send you the camera, and also give you that link. So if somebody wanted to get that thing, like you said, you've sold those cameras before, so they use your link, and it's a little bit better of a deal. But also those things are probably harder to come by.
I think it's strategic for them as well, because one thing I found from a lot of the comments in the videos is a lot of people appreciate the realness and me actually using the camera. Then most of them are getting their reviews from these camera channels that are paid review channels. They don't even use the camera. They're just regurgitating specs, and that's not what people want. They want real use field tests, and I think that it would be smart of them to start involving smaller creators and people like myself who are a little more real when it comes to testing the cameras, because that's what people appreciate. They want to see, if I'm buying a vlog camera, how does it work while I'm vlogging? Right. They don't want to see some guy in their studio just talking specs, that's no use to them. Right. And that's why one of my most viewed videos is that Sony CVE-10 one. In the first 10 seconds, I was like, all the footage and audio you're hearing from this video is coming directly from the Sony CVE-10. And hundreds of people's comments saying, thank God, finally, like a real use case, everyone appreciated that. And that's why it's one of my most viewed and engaged videos.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, obviously, like, at the end of the day, I don't know, probably Sony hasn't seen my stuff, but I've probably brought in, like, 100,000 views regarding that camera.
Oh, yeah.
And dozens of people have bought it. Apparently, to their comments, they said they bought it because of my videos. So eventually it makes sense for them to include micro influencers and people with smaller demographics, because why not? Send me a free camera. What do they have to lose?
Exactly.
It's just free publicity. They're making them for next to nothing, anything. So it's like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes good sense. And honestly, from a business perspective, if you are Sony, micro influencers don't charge as much.
Yeah.
Or won't charge as much. Obviously, there will come a time we'll be like, all right, I know I'm valued at this, so I want to charge this. But when you're smaller, it's like, yeah, I'll take a free camera.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even have to pay. Honestly, you don't have to pay me. Free
Yeah.
camera, I'm cool. Because that would have cost me like $600.
Yeah.
But free camera, you guys get free publicity. It's a win-win. And that's some of the best brand deals is win-wins.
Exactly. And I know they do that, but I don't know. I guess they don't reach people that are at our level yet. You know, it's more, I guess, I don't know. I think maybe once, I don't know, maybe like 10, 20,000 subs, I've seen people get like things sent to them from Sony. So
yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. And that's really, you know, for both of us, that's a very attainable goal, right? 10, 20,000.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, we'd be pulling 1, 2, 3,000 views a video. Like, that'd be solid, right? And I mean, because that, again, the K theory, Sony sees that and be like, wow, they're doing 1,000-something views a video. I'm going to give them a camera, right? Instead of seeing 100 views, 200, 300, it's like, those are good views for us at our size, but for a brand, it's like, they don't want to invest in that. Even if it's just sending a free camera, because, like, it doesn't have the K next to it.
Yeah. But then also, like we said, the power of those 200 is probably stronger than the power of a lot of people's 3,000 or 10,000 views. So.
Absolutely. But also, the brand probably wouldn't see it that way, as far as I would say, because
exactly.
They are very metric, numerical. Like, you have X amount of views, good. They'll buy our stuff. Whereas they probably won't, because, I mean, you never know. But if you have 200, like you said, really, really strong people that are going to buy that thing, or have a much higher chance, that's, you know, that should be what they're after, but it's not. They're after the K or the M or whatever, which sucks.
And also, it's because conversion rates are so high. You know, like I've gone like over 2,000 clicks on my Amazon affiliate links that I set up not too long ago, and I haven't made one sale from it. So that just shows, you know, 2,000 people have clicked on things, but they haven't bought anything.
Right.
So now, the conversion rate has to be high. You know, you have to be getting tens of thousands just to make a certain sale.
Right.
And I've learned that. I've done a lot of e-commerce brands and stuff, and I've paid for advertising and done all these things, and the conversion rate is tough. It's really tough to deal with because you got to reach so many just to sell so few. Right. You know, so.
And it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about value. You got to give them a reason to want to do that, because people aren't going to do something they don't want. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. But if you give them a reason to do that, for them to really want to, or you convince them why they want to, then they'll be like, I'm going to do this, either to support you or just because they want to. They want to buy the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Be like, you know, this is what the camera looks like if you want it, which I know you want it. Go to the link and buy it. And so with monetization, that's something like you have achieved YPP, which is something that not a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people numerically have, but percentage of the population, no. So it's a really cool thing. So I wanted to get some perspective because I am not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the hardest thing, I always thought, since the beginning, which might have been a flaw, but I always have thought subscribers are easier to get than watch hours. Right.
Yeah, I thought the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny. When I first started this channel in 2016, I was in the YPP. And then, like the first 2 videos I made were monetized. And this was in, like, 2016. Then the adpocalypse happened that summer. And they did a requirement. So right off the hop, I got that sense of YouTube, like, money. I was like, oh, shoot. Like, I made, like, $8 off, like it was crazy. Like, that's $8 off, like, under 1,000 views, you know? I was, like, making, like, money. I was like, oh, this is sweet. Like, I can do this. And then the adpocalypse happened a couple months later, and then it took me 5-6 years to get to that monetization level again. And rough. You know, it is rough, and but it gave me, I guess it gave me a sense of thing where it's possible. You can make money. I saw it for myself, and it's like, you know what, this is something worth chasing, I guess.
Absolutely.
And yeah, when it comes to monetization, it was a grind. Like, at the end of the day, like I said, I've been doing this channel for 5-6 years, but I only really started taking it serious when I started talking to camera. I would say like maybe 2020, like 2 or 3 years I've been trying to post weekly and taking it seriously. So like, I don't know if you want to say it took me 6 years to get monetized, or if you want to say it took 2 years, because that's when I really started focusing more on it. But yeah, it's a grind, man. And for me, I always thought the subs were harder to get than watch time because, like I said, I had those videos that were doing really well in search. You know, so I had the watch time when I had like 400 subscribers or something. Wow. Like my Mont Tremblant video that has like 20,000 views, it's like a 40-minute video. So people were just like, almost all my watch time came from that, right? Like I got a lot right off the hop. Like, yeah, I had it, like I said, 400 subs, I had the watch time. And I was like, man, this sucks. Like, the subscribers are so hard to get. Yeah. And that was the hardest part. And that was the grind for me, was getting those subs. And I think what really did it for me was, turning point was getting the Sony ZV-10. I sold my old camera. It was almost kind of better camera in a sense, but I saw this camera, and when I was looking for it, there was like a chip shortage at the time, and they stopped producing it for a while, and there was a lack of videos. And I just saw this thing. It's like, if I got this camera, slapped it in the title, because I reviewed the Canon M50 like a year or two prior, and it did really well, got like 10,000 views. So I was like, if I get this new camera, there's not a lot of videos on it. That's something I could kind of exploit. So getting that camera is what got me to 1,000 subs, no doubt.
Wow.
Because that was like, the growth was very stagnant. Like, I got monetized in November, and that previous summer the growth was stagnant. Like, it was just like, it was a struggle just to get 100 views on a video. And I was posting a lot, and it just wasn't doing well, it wasn't hitting. And then I started making the Sony ZV-10 videos, which kind of changed things quite a lot, and that's what really helped kind of push me to that monetization point. If I didn't get the camera, who knows, I might not even be at 1,000 subs right now.
Who knows? But it's good that you took that, you saw that the ZV-E10 did well, and you ran with it, instead of saying, that was a one-off, let's get back to doing what I usually do. You saw that, and you were also, like, let's capitalize on it.
Also, I did it in a strategic way. I never wanted to be a camera review channel. I never wanted to just regurgitate specs like half these people. Like, that's not what I was passionate about. I just wanted to twist it, like how I can make vlogs with this, and that's the people who ended up subscribing and sticking around were aspiring vloggers, and they liked the way I vlogged, and that's why they stuck around. So I've always I kind of exploited the Sony ZV-E10 to bring people into the content that I want to make. It's just kind of, it's clickbait, but not at the same time, because I'm still using the camera, and it's still about the Sony ZV-10, but I use that to bring them into my vlog. Yeah,
I think you said it's clickbait, but in a way, I mean, it is by definition, I would say, but not really. Because I think I made a video about this a couple years back about, is clickbait actually bad? And my answer to that was no, because clickbait is you simply just trying to draw the click. It's like, if you have a thumbnail on your video that you've made, it's clickbait, because that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to bait the clicks. But when it gets bad is when you go crazy, when you exaggerate, when you lie, it's dishonest, and you don't deliver. When you don't deliver on your title and thumbnail, that's when it's clickbaity, because it's like, are you really, like, you got the click, but you didn't give the value, right?
Yeah, if it has nothing to do with the video, that's wrong, at the end of the day.
That's when it becomes unethical and kind of like...
Exactly. You at least want to, whatever, if it's in the title or thumbnail, it has to do something with the video. Otherwise, I think that's wrong.
Right. For sure. That makes a lot of sense. Clickbait is, I don't know if I've ever properly used it. Like, I think I have once, but it was more of an ironic way. Like, I said, this is the best video of all time, and it's like, whatever. But no, I think using the ZV-E10, I've actually taken a note out of your book where, I will use, we've talked about this before, where I've used the camera title in my video before, because at first I felt guilty about it, because it felt like clickbait, right? I felt like I was trying to capitalize on having this in my title, but at the end of the day, it's relevant to the video, and that's why it works, because it is relevant, and it does contribute, and it still ranks in search and stuff, so it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, just like typing into people's whatever psychology, and at the end of the day, like, I've realized this since day one. Like I said, I've always been a YouTube consumer, but I remember this one test I did before I even launched this channel. Like I said, I was a music producer, so we had a channel where we'd make DJ mixes. So we released the same mix, like an hour-long mix. One was just like a custom thumbnail I made, and then the other one was like a girl's booty on the beach. And that video with the girl's booty got like 20,000 views, and the other one got like 100.
Wow.
So, it's just like, you got to play the game at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And it's just trying to find a healthy balance of doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's something, finding the healthy balance of playing the game and having your own creative voice still is something I think you've done really well. Is, you have the title. You have your titles and your thumbnails, you make them, but it feels real. It's not like you're a YouTuber, you're a creative. And I think that's something that we all, you and I and everybody that is similar to us, is something that we should strive for, is not playing that game. Like, we play the game, but we play the game in a very strategic way to where we win. Where we are the ones saying, we did well on YouTube because our creativity showed through to the people that were looking for this certain thing. And they found us and they liked it.
I'm fulfilling my creative soul instead of selling it.
Exactly. What I mean? Absolutely. And I think that's a big takeaway from today's episode, is just, do what you love and fulfill your creative. Exactly.
Create for yourself, and I'm sure there's other people out there that will like it, and that's it. It's hard. Just I hate the algorithms. I hate this whole. You know my thoughts on it. I'm just not a fan of this whole stuff and just the way it is. And whatever. Eventually, just I can hope that everyone could get to a point where they don't need to worry about that and they could just create freely, because I think a lot of people lose their creative expression trying to chase algorithms and numbers and stuff. And that's how people suffer burnout and do that. I'm not going to lie, the last 2 weeks I haven't uploaded. I've been struggling with a little burnout, but at the same time too, I'm never going to experience it like other creators do, because I'm not going to work every day and hating what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Right. I like making these videos. So I think that's why at the end of the day I'll win, because
Yeah, and you know what? Taking a 2-week break, not a bad thing at all, because you're allowing yourself to do that so that you can sustain in the long term. Because if you just grind, you're going to burn out and it's going to stop. And you're not going to be able to come back after 2 weeks. Oh, yeah.
It's hard taking a break, man. I've still made like 2 or 3 vlogs in the last 2 weeks that I just haven't posted. And I probably won't, just because, I don't know, I'm in a place mentally where it's like, I don't really know. I'm a little confused, It's like, what do I want to do right now? Like, it's just, it's tough. For sure. And that just comes from like an aspect too of like views and numbers, you think about it in that sense. When at the end of the day, it's like, whatever, I just need to keep creating what I want.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. And there's actually been times where I have the studio app on my phone, right? YouTube Studio. I've deleted it multiple times because I got to a place where I was letting those numbers affect what I was making.
Yeah.
As opposed to making what I wanted to make. And I have it on my phone again. I look at it all the time. But my perspective has changed to where I look at the numbers and I see, okay, that did what? That did X, Y, Z. But I enjoyed that video. I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed making it. So to my standard, it's a success because it's what I wanted to make. And that's what I'm going to be able to make in the future because I like it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So are there any final closing thoughts you'd like to bestow upon our audiences, yours and mine, whoever? Give a little last-minute value for those that stuck around to the end.
Last-minute value. If you're a creative, just take your time and getting the proper shots. Don't always rush things, Shoot more than you need to. Just really take pride in creating and trying to create something good because, if you take the shortcuts, people will notice. And I think that's where my growth has came from, is coming from people appreciating the work that I put into my videos, because at the end of the day, it might just look like a little vlog, but hours and hours and days go into these videos, and it's something that I really take pride in doing. And I think a lot of people just need to slow down and try and make good things instead of the best things for the algorithm.
Make good things for people.
Yes,
because end of the day, the audience is the algorithm. The people that watch your videos.
Also, another thing I hate when people are always like, oh, you have to create for an audience. But at the same time, too, it's like, I think creating for yourself is a good way to go, too. Especially if you have, if you kind of know what's good and what works, then I think creating for yourself is a better way to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If I was supposed to just create for an audience and whatever, then I would just be making spec videos and doing these talking head tutorials.
Right, and that's no fun.
But there has to be a balance between creating what you want and creating for the algorithm. You need to find that balance. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do. For sure. I made a short and an actual video talking about the audience as the algorithm. But more importantly, to be your own audience, to watch your own stuff. Even if you don't like watching your own videos because it's like yourself or whatever, make something that you like. Make something that if it wasn't you, that you would watch. Make videos that you would watch. And that's why, like you said, you do vlogs because you enjoy watching vlogs. And same here. Yeah. I enjoy watching the stuff that I make because it's inspired by people that I like, right? Exactly.
So be your own audience.
Who are your inspirations?
Oh, mine?
Like, obviously the Nystat brothers, but do you have any other creatives that have really kind of paved the path for you?
Well, the Nystat brothers, without a doubt, right? That's an obvious one. I don't know about necessarily creatives, but Gary V has been somebody that I've consumed a lot about, and it's not as much about the creative side of it as it is the humility side of it, the being happy side of it, the core interior stuff, right? The making what you love, no matter if anybody views it or not. It's about making what makes you happy. Because when you're a creative person, like us or like the Nystats or whatever, you need to fulfill and do what makes you happy. Create what makes you happy, and eventually audience will come. And that's what one of Gary Vee's big things is, make videos that you like, make content that you like. The people will find it. It will reach the people. Give value, make what you love, and people will see that. And so it's those guys for sure. And then other than that, it's just
down is a big problem too, because once you get caught in a niche, it's hard to break free.
Absolutely.
That's why if you start creating what you want from the beginning, it might slow growth, but at the end of the day, people who stick around will know that you're creating what you want, and they'll kind of stick with you either way.
Absolutely. And they'll, again, I made another video about this. I make videos about a lot of things, but make what you like, because, again, subliminally, people see this person's having a good time doing this. So I like watching it more because they're enjoying it. There's a lot. It's fun to watch people have fun, right? It's a very fun thing. Like one of the things that makes me laugh the most in real life is laughing with other people. When somebody starts laughing, I want to laugh because it's a good time. You bounce off other people. You need people. So that's something. And same with, like you said earlier, going outside. You need to do that. Same with people. You need other people.
Yeah, for sure.
So being able to see somebody have a good time in their content is a very underrated aspect of it. So what are some of your inspirations? What things that make you you?
Well, I'll tell you what. Obviously, when it comes to vlogging and all that stuff, was Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, Yoon Olsen. I was really into like Sam Colder and those cinematic travel guys back in the day, and that's what really kind of sparked my interest into the cinematic world. But I'll tell you what, if anyone's watching this and they're a creator or aspiring YouTuber, the person who I've learned the most from and who's really kind of molded my creativity is this guy, Thomas Alex Norman. And he just launched a new channel. It's called Portal Creative. So I would say everyone go check out him. He's one of the best when it comes to teaching filmmaking and how to talk to camera and getting comfortable with all those things. He's just truly the GOAT in my eyes. And I think when I make it big on YouTube, he's the one to thank for sure, because he definitely crafted a lot of my style and I've learned a lot from him. So I think everyone should check him out. And recently, I think a lot of my inspiration has come from, I do enjoy the more quicker things, like sometimes like the Yes Theory, Kelly Wakasa, that style of videos. It's fun to watch. It's not really the stuff that I really want to make, but I do pull a little inspiration from videos like that. And then also I love like the outdoor camping guys. Like Mav, Camping with Steve. These guys are just doing different things, camping in their truck, doing these stealth camping, like trying different things. And I think it's really cool. Like that guy Camping with Steve, like what he's done is insane. Like it's like he'll like go camp in a sewer or something, and just because it's crazy, like he'll pull like so many millions of views, right? And he's just absolutely killing it right now. And a lot of people connect with him because he's just a down to earth, humble guy, and he's just doing these like kind of outrageous videos. And I don't know. There's inspiration gets pulled from a lot of different people, but I think at the end of the day, I kind of crafted my own style from all these different people, and I think that's what everyone kind of does. I'm not a rip-off of anyone. I think my content is kind of unique in a sense. Oh, yeah. But obviously, I've drawn influence from a bunch of creatives that I look up to.
Oh, yeah. It definitely is. And that's something, whenever Mr. Beast was on Colin and Samir, he was talking about people copying him, right? Directly, carbon copy, perfect. But he said, nothing is original, because everybody's inspired by somebody. Yeah. But it's instead of stealing, you're taking what they've made and you're making it better or making your own spin on it. So
of course,
I think it's awesome that you have that many inspirations, because you're taking a little bit from like 10 different people. Whereas some people that are like obsessed, like I'm guilty of this, where I'm just like Van Neistat, Casey Neistat, just boom, 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 boom. It's a little too narrow, and obviously still I'll make my own thing. But the more people you can pick from, the more unique I think it gets, because you have a little taste from everybody. And
like I said in the beginning, the one thing is the feeling. Mm-hmm. Creators who make me feel something when I'm watching a video and I'm like, oh, that's good.
That's good. Yeah, it's like super satisfying. It's like ooh.
Instantly, it's like, yeah, okay, that's what I want to do, and that's what I strive to do too. Like, I hope the feeling I get from watching this video, I can give that to my audience, and right. I think that's one of the biggest things that's motivated me watching these other creators was the feeling they gave me and wanting to kind of replicate that.
Yeah, and also you said some people that aren't necessarily as inspiring to you, but are more so, I would say, entertainment value. Yeah. It's like your TV show. You sit down to eat, you watch a little something, right? It's like that. Honestly, that gives you the entertainment value, but also I think that does in a sort of subconscious way, inspire you to a degree.
Oh yeah.
Because you want to entertain people. Make something that's
And
entertaining
at the
for
end of the
somebody
day,
to
I'm
watch.
always a student. I'm never gonna know it all. I'm always learning, and even though I might not make a video like Yes Theory, I can pull little things from that, like, oh, how did that transition? How they brought the text on the screen? I can utilize that in my video and just kind of just find that happy median where it's not copying, but you're just drawing inspiration and from different areas.
Right on. That's good. I like that. Being a student, you're always learning. If you're not learning, you're not growing. You're not doing things. Because the more you can add, the better.
It's just
really
ignorant
good.
for someone to say they know it all or whatever. You never will. There's always going to be someone better, and there's always people you can learn from.
Oh yeah, that's something that, especially on TikTok and stuff like that, it always used to bother me, and it still does, but I don't really care about it as much. People with, obviously, followers are a vanity metric, but people with like very, very small follower counts acting like they know how to hack the algorithm and be like, let me teach you these things, when in reality they're doing that for views, because it's regurgitating information from people that actually know these things. They're just saying the words and going through the motions. And that used to bother me so much. I was like, dude, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just stealing information. And that's all it is, like the specs people on cameras. It's just spitting out 4K, 24 frames per second, blah, 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 whereas you're not actually giving any value. You're just reading off of a textbook.
Yeah, or like financially, like you're not going to listen to someone who's making less money than you. You know what I mean? It's like the same kind of field,
It's like these people just do that to get the views. They don't actually know or care if you feel something or get value. They just want the numbers. They just want the numbers of it, which is it's a bad place to be, really, because if you're not in it for the doing of it, like anything in life, if you're not in it for the process, it's a lot harder to get to places. The goals just happen. Goals, milestones, whatever. This stuff just happens. It's not. If I like using this analogy, if somebody loves running or walking, whatever, the destination, obviously that's going to come, but it's the feeling in between from start to finish. It's that guts. It's the journey that is really, if that's what they love about it, then they'll be able to run for the rest of their life. Without a doubt.
You gotta love the journey.
Absolutely, you gotta love the journey.
Because man, it's a long one. And
It's
if you don't love it,
if you don't love it, you're toast. You're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it through the first quarter. But dude, that's that epic podcast, my man. Epic. Yeah, man, very good, very valuable. I think people are gonna really dig it. I think it's gonna be great. So
we should definitely do it again sometime.
Absolutely, we gotta do part 2. Gotta do something. Gotta run it up. It's great, and eventually we'll get that vlog made. We'll get something put together.
Yeah, definitely.
Have to get something together.
Well, my doors are always open. If you ever make it down these ways, you're welcome to stay with me.
You got it. I appreciate that, dude. So, thank you all. If you're here watching live, thank you so much for tuning in. Evan, once again, thanks so much for coming on. It was awesome. Very valuable stuff. Very good. It's so good talking to a like-minded human, because it's just
there's not a lot of us. I don't have any really friends in my friend group that I could talk like this with. They just don't get it.
I don't either. I don't either. Really. Very, very few. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. And it's awesome. So thank you for being here. And again, we should do it again sometime. It was super fun.
Most definitely.
All right. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you, Evan, for being here. And we'll catch you again next time. Tomorrow. Day 6. Woo! All right. See you guys.